Ladies and gentlemen, आवाज आ रही है मुझे? हाँ, आवाज आ रही है? उधर कोई आवाज नहीं आ रही। आवाज आ रही है? Can you hear me? 1 2 3 1 2 3. Can you hear me? Okay. I'll request Colonel Aziz Ansari to please come in.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبर सदक अल्लाह अज़ीम। पनाह मांगता हूँ मैं अल्लाह की शैतान मरदूद से। इब्तिदा करता हूँ अल्लाह के नाम से जो बड़ा मेहरबान नहायत रहम करने वाला है। ज़माने की कसम तमाम इंसान खसारे में है सिवाय इनके जो ईमान लाए और उन्होंने नेक अमल किया और एक दूसरे को हक़ की तलक़ीन करते रहे और सब्र की तलक़ीन करते रहे। व आखिर दावाना अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। सबसे पहले first of all I like to thank everyone who has come here. I'm really honored and humbled. Thank you very much for your presence. आज का प्रोग्राम बेसिकली तो चंद दोस्तों का आपस में मिलने का है कि हम लोग मुलाकात कर रहे हैं और एक मैंने किताब लिखी है जिसके बारे में बहुत कुछ बाद में बात होती रहेगी। सबसे पहले I want to acknowledge Sir Abbas Mirza, Air Vice Marshal Abbas Mirza. He is a very well-respected pilot of Pakistan Air Force, a very great commander. I served under his command as a flight lieutenant in Shore Court. Abbas Saab is a very professional pilot. He has flown from F-104 to F-16, all the aircraft of Pakistan Air Force, plus F-20. Sir, before I say something more about Sir, I think I'll just give you एक छोटा सा example मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि there is one person, my course mate, who has come from Lahore. He has not come, well, he has come to attend my function also, but that's not the main reason. His main reason to come here because he has served with Sir Abbas Mirza and he has come only to see him. Squadron Leader Shahid Hamid, please stand up and verify my statement. Sir Abbas Mirza is a great and well-respected officer of Pakistan Air Force. I have so many friends here which I'll keep acknowledging. And I'll keep telling you, next to him is sitting Air Commodore Nadeem Anjum. He's my coachmate again. Captain Rahat, Squadron Shahid. I also have Group Captain Minhas. Ijaz Minhas is sitting with Sir Abbas. And he's very active right now. बहुत PTI के साथ इन्वॉल्व है, पॉलिटिकल फिगर बनता जा रहा है। उसके साथ सुहेल अल्ताफ बैठे हुए हैं। और इससे पहले कि मैं इन लोगों का और तारुफ कराऊं, मैं आपको थोड़ी सा यहाँ जो लोग बैठे हुए हैं इनके बारे में बता दूं कि यहाँ बैठे हुए काफ़ी लोग ऐसे हैं जो कि आपस में क्लास फेलोज नहीं हैं, लेकिन ये सब के सब मेरे क्लास फेलोज हैं। उसकी वजह ये है कि ये लोग एक साल में पास होकर दूसरी क्लास में चले जाते थे, लेकिन मैं थोड़ा रिसर्च स्कॉलर हूँ और इसी वजह से वो मेरी रिसर्च इतनी है कि मैंने किताब तक लिख दी है। थैंक यू। नाउ I'll request कर्नल अफजाल नियाज, ही इज़ द पर्सन जिसने सबसे पहले मेरी किताब खरीदी थी और ना सिर्फ ये कि ख़रीदी थी बल्कि इसने वो किताब पूरी पढ़ी है. So I'll request Afzal to come and say a few words about the book, whatever he thinks. Please, Afzal.
Assalamu alaikum. Air Vice Marshal Abbas Mirza, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. Scholarly Nusrat Hussain, the loving chacha of our course. As in joining PF Lotopa, most of us were hardly 19 or 20 years old, and he was for sure more than 25 years old. In the academy, he was most of the time responsible for course punishment in and out. In because he would take frequent pangas with the seniors like Tanveer Mahajar, and out due to his knack of vomiting at will and scaring the seniors much to our relief. I will also hold him responsible for spoiling, or should I say making naughty some of our course mates. Incidentally, none of them is here. Rana Suhail Asghar, Zafar Yasin, Tahir Gondal to be top on the list. AVM Tabriz luckily remained safe and is living happily thereafter. Nusrat, romantic by nature, but in spite of all his efforts, the only girl he got hold of during his entire life is his wife. But hectic efforts still continue. I left PF after 4th term, but we never lost in touch with each other. Apart from other qualities, the biggest shock all of us got was his intellectual abilities. Initially opening up medical newspaper, once he moved to Canada, and then writing this wonderful book, The Last Salute. I happened to be part of the ceremony of the first launch of this book on 7th September this year at PFS Chaklala. The ceremony was presided by Air Marshal Kaisar. I am also, as he said, the lucky to be the first person who bought this book. He did not spare his course mates, and the rough estimate suggests that he has safely covered his return expense from Canada to Pakistan and back. But, ladies and gentlemen, let me honestly admit that after the first launch of this book, and while going back to my office, I started reading this book. I wanted to remain glued to it. And within 2 days, I had finished this book. Again, being the first to completely read this book. Every word of it speaks of the pain he has taken in writing. I was also lucky to be present during the third launch of this book at PF Shara Faisal Karachi on 14th of October this year. And now this day has a very special significance because this day back in 1975, the course joined PF Lotopa. Air Commodore Shabir Angel was the chief guest, and Nusrat had presented him this book an evening earlier. But believe me, Air Commodore Shabir in this short spell had read this book in such a great detail, which spoke of once he had carried out a very detailed analysis of his book during his speech. Later, after the ceremony, Nusrat very graciously announced 10% of the income of this book to Rashid Foundation being run by Air Commodore Shabir Angel. Thank you, Nusrat. Ladies and gentlemen, this book is an excellent compilation and narration of some very emotional incidents. I could not control my emotions once I read the crash of two brilliant course mates of mine, Sikandar Shah and Asif Aziz Shah, both very dear to our hearts. Those who had survived, like AVM Tabriz and Masoom Kareem, had assisted Nusrat in meticulously narrating their first-hand experience. As such, in my opinion, this book is an essential read for all fighter pilots and those who have interest in aviation. Gentlemen, this book gives an insight of PF life and its bondage and habit of Nusrat taking frequent pangas with his seniors, which continued till the last day of his retirement, and he did not stop. It continued even while he was serving in Bahrain Air Force. I have a firm conviction that his writing ability got polished while giving frequent explanation to the seniors and undergoing a lot of court inquiries during his course. Gentlemen, a very important, very interesting episode which he narrates in this book is about his marriage life. When he got engaged, he was posted to PAF, he was posted to ATC Cherat. During one of his leave to Rawalpindi, his fiancée, dear Bhabhi Shaheen, rings him on the last day of his leave and requests him to come over to Karachi. Now Nusrat, without considering the consequences, he boards the next flight, and during the flight, he goes to the cockpit and rings up gets in touch with the ATC Charats and gets his leave approved by a concorded emergency. Well, he did not stop here. Thereafter, his father and his father-in-law decided that some difference developed between them, and they decided that they should not get the children married. Now Nusrat had the guts to go to his father-in-law and straight open up his heart and said that he has no choice, he has to get married, and he finally got him convinced. Now Air Commodore Shabir Angel terms this episode as a total commitment of Nusrat to his wife. But me and my coursemates are convinced that it was not at all a total commitment, it was more than total commitment. For Nusrat, it was a matter of do and die, because he knew that nobody on this god earth would take such a risk with getting his daughter married with him. Last but not the least, Nusrat has brought up a new dimension to the mystery confounded to the death of President Ziaul. He was then serving in ATC PF Chaklala, from where the C-130 took place. He later, after retirement, got access to certain classified information regarding this unfortunate crash. Buy this book, read it, and uncover this suspense. Nusrat, apart from the shock you had given to your postmates by exposing your intellectual abilities, let me admit that you have done a wonderful job. Probably in your entire life, this is the first venture you have taken so seriously. I wish you would have taken your PAF career so seriously. I salute you on behalf of 65th UTB Law Post. Thank you.
Azal, thank you very much. I don't know कि इसने मेरी तारीफ की थी या बदतारीफें की थी. But anyways, मेरे बड़े अच्छे दोस्त हैं यहाँ मौजूद. ब्रिगेडियर फयाज सती is one of them. सती बड़ा अच्छा दोस्त है और he has been with me in model school. सती अच्छे बुरे वक्त का दोस्त है. ये और बात है कि बुरे वक्त ज़्यादातर सती जैसे दोस्तों की वजह से ही आता था. So I'll request Brigadier Sati to come and say a few words. Where are you, Sati? Mala, as usual, you are always late.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Nusrat, for giving me this honor to say a few words about your mysterious life. As Nusrat said, we have been friends, childhood friends, and we had a wonderful time together. I still remember that when we were small boys, his father used to come to pick him up in a Vespa scooter, and then myself and Nusrat would climb and take a ride on the scooter to his place, and then we used to play together. Those were really wonderful days, and we all of us know that life in Pakistan was beautiful at that time, and those were really memorable days when Nusrat, in his own ways, had a great charm and sense of humor, and we had a wonderful childhood together. As just mentioned with the last speaker, that I was myself shocked to learn about his intellectual abilities and his writing abilities. I've not read the whole book because he didn't give me any, and he wants me to buy it if you want to read it. So, but he used to send some episodes on the email and on the WhatsApp. So it's really surprising and shocking that how well he writes and how much he has improved after his retirement from the Pakistan Air Force. So now that he's settled in Canada, whenever he comes back to Pakistan, and I'm now living in Ireland, he stays in touch, he's a great friend, and it's always a pleasure to talk to him because he reminds me of good old days, of those beautiful days in Satellite Town, Rawalpindi, were in the Central Government Model School. And I wish Nusrat best of luck, good health, and a beautiful life with his family. And Nusrat, thank you very much.
Sati, thank you very much. And you'll have to buy the book, man. Nothing for free. This is not a free lunch. Pakistan Air Force is my romance. And I have flirted with my romance. And that is all written in this book. I'll encourage you people to have it. Another course mate of mine, Group Captain Minhas, he has become a political figure. I'll request Minhas to come and say a few words here. Group Captain Minhas.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Air Marshal Abbas Mirza, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It gives me immense pleasure to be here with my course mate today, amongst all other friends and course mates, on introduction of this book, and we may call it the relaunching for the 5th time of this book. This is the 5th launching function that Nusrat has arranged ever since he landed from Canada about a month back. I was fortunate to attend the 2nd launching in Lahore also. As Colonel Afzal said, it was a shock for us when we came to know that Nusrat has written a book. To write a book, you need, besides other qualities, 2 very important qualities: the intellect and initiative. About his initiative, we knew, because his initiative landed us in trouble many a times during our academy days. But about intellect, Nusrat, we have now come to know, after you have suitably and very aptly put together the events of that period when we joined Pakistan Air Force. Colonel Afzal has covered almost all aspects of what he's written. I would say that this book is very captivating for 2 reasons, for us at least, for our postmates and the colleagues in Pakistan Air Force. One is the nostalgia. That is the period about which he mentions the events and activities and when he joined Pakistan Air Force. the academy life, and going into fighter conversion and going to squadron, the early years in the flying in the squadrons. It was, everybody would bear me out that those were the most wonderful years of our lives. The academy and immediate after, before we really got on to responsibilities in our life. Higher we go, the better, the more responsibilities you have. It's the nostalgia that is, when you're reading the book, you just don't want to leave it, as Colonel Afzal said. You keep going and going because it reminds you of those days and years and months when we did all this. The second reason is the romance, as Ustad said. We had the romance with Pakistan Air Force as a first love. When you read this book, you go over all those events of flying, and in those years, about over 4 decades back, you must know that Pakistan Air Force service of flying or becoming a fighter pilot was a mirage in life. I mean, it's a top job. And we as youngsters from school days, and wars of 65 and 71 had just gone by when we were growing up. It was our dream to become a fighter pilot. So those years when our dream was coming true, that was a romance with this service. And let me tell you something else. As my postmates would know, that I had a very unique career, although I'm an Air Force officer and I had 29 years of commissioned service, but I served Pakistan Air Force only for about 11 years. When I was in Royal Saudi Air Force for 4 years, and thereon for 14 years I served in ISI. And during this service, I have been interacting with various ministries and departments and divisions, undercover on my appointments abroad also. And having interacted everywhere, let me tell all of you that Pakistan Air Force is the best service that in Pakistan. The best service in Pakistan. And if you ask me if I ever get a chance to be born again, I'll still like to join Pakistan Air Force. So, I'm talking about romance. He has very aptly put together those years of life, which were the wonderful years, and his book becomes very captivating. In fact, I had read some of the articles that he started writing when he landed in Vancouver in his magazine, and some of those articles are now part of this book. And he should thank me for putting all course mates together, because I dug out about 40 of us from all over the world about 2 years back and put them on this WhatsApp group. And some of us interacted after 25 years, 30 years. And it was on the same WhatsApp group that we coordinated his coming here and launching of the book. One of my course mates who's sitting here, Suhail, he sent me a message. He said, I read the book. Nusrat has used your name and service name also many a times in that book. And you should either sue him or claim the royalty of the book. So Nusrat, I won't neither sue you nor ask for royalty, but do remember me when you are counting in dollars the sale proceeds of this book. Okay? And I said only very popular people get mentioned in the book, so that's forgiven. So Nusrat, keep writing. We are listening, and we'll be waiting for your next book very soon. Thank you very much.
That reminds me about Suhail Altaf. Minaz just mentioned him. When I launched, first launch, Suhail Altaf came to me and he asked me, have you mentioned me in this book? Manka, you first buy it and then I'll tell you. So he bought the book for 1,000 rupees, and then again he came to me and he said, have you mentioned me? Manka, no. So I'll request now my buddy Suhail Altaf, who paid 1,000 for the book, but didn't get a mention in it, to please come here, Suhail Altaf.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Vice Marshal Abbas Mirza Sahab, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, and squad leader Nusrat. ये 5वीं दफा अगर ये लॉन्च कर रहा है तो उसकी there is a reason to that. This is the first time in his life that he is being praised amongst people. Otherwise, he would always stand as a culprit, and his course mates would always curse him for what he has done. किताब में नाम तो नुसरत का लिखा है. I am not sure whether he has written it or not. And I think most of you also doubt that. Nusrat, as we know him, ये अभी तो इसने कहा कि all are my course mates या class fellows हैं. तो एयर वाइस मार्शल अब्बास मिर्जा आप भी क्लास फेलो होंगे सर. लेकिन कुछ हैं जो अभी यहाँ नहीं है. मेरा ख्याल है एयर मार्शल कैसर भी इसके क्लास फेलो हैं. और आई डोंट नो इसने एज स्क्वाड लीडर व्हेन ही लेफ्ट PAF ये कहते हैं मैंने छोड़ दी. बट आई थिंक वी वर ऑल सर्विंग, अदर्स वर ऑल सर्विंग. ये रिटायरमेंट एज को पहुंच चुका था और रिटायर हुआ है. कैसे हाउ डिड ही चीट PAF? आई थिंक अभी चेक करना चाहिए. हाउ डिड ही गेट इनटू द एयरफोर्स? मैं इसका क्लास फेलो, इधर खालिद इकबाल मलिक बैठे हैं. ही इज अबाउट 5 years सीनियर टू मी. तो ही सेड कि नुसरत मेरा क्लास फेलो है. मैंने कहा नुसरत किस किस का क्लास फेलो है? वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू मेक आउट रियली. और ये किताब के बाद तो यू नो पेरेंट्स वुड ऑलवेज लाइक कि बच्चे जो हैं पास हो जाएं, फर्स्ट टाइम ही पास हों. लेकिन नुसरत इज एन एग्जाम्पल कि लोग कहेंगे ठीक है 10 साल के बजाय 20 साल मैट्रिक में लगाओ. तो नुसरत ने 20 साल में मैट्रिक की और फिर एयरफोर्स में थोड़ा अर्सा 5 साल ही सर्व कर सकता था. एज आ गई, देन इवेंट. लेकिन बड़ा ट्रांसफॉर्म हुआ. नुसरत इसका वैसे ट्रू कलर अगर आपने देखना है तो कोर्समेट्स को नजर आता होगा जो ये व्हाट्सएप पे मैसेजेस करता है. दैट इज हिज ट्रू कलर. लेकिन बुक पढ़ के वाकई आई वाज पूरी तो नहीं मैं पढ़ सका. कर्नल अफजाल, हैट्स ऑफ टू यू, यू रेड द होल बुक. लेकिन मैंने जितनी पढ़ी इट वाज वेरी एब्जॉर्बिंग. आई थिंक नुसरत यू आर ए ट्रू एग्जाम्पल कि कैसे लोग ट्रांसफॉर्म होते हैं. एक शरारती बच्चे से एक सीजन राइटर इफ यू आर, अगर आपने लिखी है. लेकिन आज आप हमें सच सच बता दें कि ये किताब आप ही ने लिखी है. बुक तो इसने लॉन्च कर दी. हम भी बिजनेस कर रहे हैं लेकिन इस जैसा बिजनेस मैंने नहीं देखा है. 1000 रुपए के बगैर ये वो किताब जो है ये किसी को नहीं दे रहा. I think he must have sold it to his wife also. Or now that he has become so rich after selling so many books, so I think we should have good relation with you. मैं ऐसी बातें तो नहीं, आपकी तारीफ भी कर देता हूँ. बहुत अच्छी आपने किताब लिखी है और मैंने तो आपसे नुसरत से मायदा कर लिया है. He is going to write a book for me also. I'll pay him and he'll write my name under that. ऐसे ही है. AVM Abbas Mirza सर, आपको देख के बहुत खुशी हुई. I am meeting you after maybe 20 years. You are mashallah still young and healthy. और बड़ी देख के खुशी हुई. हम अपने हम बूढ़े हो गए, आप माशाल्लाह जवान हैं. विश यू ए लॉन्ग हेल्दी लाइफ Nusrat, we'll be missing you. आपने बहुत अच्छे, I mean, your launch was very nice. लाहौर में भी बहुत अच्छा function हुआ. Nusrat has a quality. He has kept his family together. इसको माँ बाप की दुआ है और course mates भी they wish you well. I am sure अल्लाह ताला आपसे खुश है. जिस तरह आपने अपने वाले साहब का भी मेंशन किया है बुक में, it shows you are a good son. Take care of your family and wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
सुहेल, तूने किताब एक खरीदी है और 10 मिनट इधर लगा के आया. Time is money. But thank you very much. I have to acknowledge people who have come from outstation. Scholar Shahid Ahmed has come, Professor Ijaz Minhaz has come. But I have another friend who has come from USA, not for this lunch. He was in Lahore, but today he has come from Lahore. And I was discussing a lot with him when I was writing this book. He's my course mate, left very earlier from the Air Force. Popularly, he's known as Eagle, let me say in some soft words. Otherwise, generally, we would call him Cheda otherwise. Please, Shahid, on request you to come. A very intellectual. He has been helping me and discussing with me about the book. I'll request you to come and say a few words, please.
Honorable AVM Abbas Mirza and everybody else and my course mates, thank you very much. I and Nusrat exchange very important views about world matters. In other words, we run the world when we discuss on the phone for hours on. And one day he calls me and he says he wants to write a book. And I said, okay, what would be the book about? And he said, I'll just write about myself, my life. And I said, okay, what is your theme? Like, what do you want to say in that? And he said that I've lived my life my way. I don't take orders. I don't listen to anybody. I do what I feel like. So I said, that reminds me of a song by Frank Sinatra. It's called My Way. And that's a favorite song of my good friend, Yasmin Haas as well. So I wrote him a little introduction when I saw him kind of, double-minded about it, that whether he should write or not. So I wrote about a page where I started with the song, how the song starts, and then how I brought Nusrat into it. So when he read that, he said, his all lights just lit up. And he said, okay, I want to write the book. And from there onwards, he started sending me some drafts, and we will discuss that how he should, further refine it. And I kind of felt that, he was struggling with it himself, because it's quite a task. To write a book, you have to get the material together, to make it interesting for people to read, and he is struggling. And so, but hats off to him, he didn't give up. He kept on. He said, no, I'm going to write it. And sometimes months would pass and I wouldn't speak with him or talk to him. But then he would call me back and he says, yeah, he's getting close to it. As I was quite surprised that when he said that it is about to be finished. Another thing which I noticed about him was that when I first started talking to him after we discovered each other, he was in Vancouver, I'm in Baltimore, that he has taken interest in philosophy. Now this guy, who was always at the tail end of our assemblies and our parades and everything, always laughing, getting us into trouble, is learning about Aristotle and Plato and so on and so forth. So I think it's never too late in life to change yourself and transform yourself and then say, okay, whatever has happened, now I'm going to be a different person. My story has been somewhat as well. When I was in the Air Force, I was mentally very young. I look back, I was like a child. I think I transformed after I left Air Force. So it happens in life, and this has happened for good for Nusrat when he decided to take interest in philosophy and think about things in life, how life is, how he has lived his life, and where he should go from there. I really appreciate his effort. There is also an episode about me in the book, which is also which basically joined me and Ajaz Minhas once and for all, forever. Because when I got lost in the air, it was after Ajaz Minhas had got lost in the air, the mission before, so we share that. And I really appreciate that Nusrat has that in his book. So we are forever together, the whole course, especially three of us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Shahid, thank you very much for all those help that you have been offering. So you mentioned me as about my love for philosophy. So it reminds me one quote of George Bernard Shaw, and I remember it, so I'll just say further. It says, every star has its own orbit. Every star has its own orbit, and between it and its nearest neighbor, there is not only a powerful attraction, but also an infinite distance. If the attraction becomes stronger than the distance, the two do not embrace each other. They together crash in ruins. Keeping this distance is the whole secret of good manners, and without good manners, human society is intolerable and impossible. So I just thought I should share with you my philosophical shukr hai, today you can kar liya. Waise, by the way, there have been so many questions asked from me about by so many people कि ये किताब तुमने लिखी है कि मुझे खुद भी शक हो गया कि शायद मैंने नहीं लिखी. I have to acknowledge General Shahid is here. I'm meeting him after 45 years. So it's a great, Shahid, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for coming here. I spoke to him on telephone and I asked him if he can come. I'm seeing him after 45 years. We were never in touch throughout this time. My other friends are here. Where is Hakani? Mohsen Hakani is here. He's our brother officer in the Air Force. We spent some good time. Air Commodore Shahid Ayaz is here. Shahid Ayaz is a good player of Scrabble. We used to play Scrabble together. और एक दफ़ा मैंने एक वर्ड बनाया स्क्रैबल में, मोपेड, एंड ही चैलेंज इट, और वो वर्ड उसमें मिला नहीं डिक्शनरी में, तो इसने मेरा बहुत मजाक बनाया. कोई आई थिंक आफ्टर 30 years व्हेन आई वाज इन कनाडा मुझे एक डिक्शनरी मिली जिसमें मोपेड लिखा हुआ था. आई कॉल्ड हिम फ्रॉम कनाडा एंड आई टोल्ड हिम कि यार ये इसमें लिखा हुआ है मेरा नाम. Now, I'll request, we have Shahid Yusuf here. Shahid Yusuf has been commercial attaché in Canada. He lives in Vancouver. I'll request, because we have time, about 1:15, we are going to serve the brunch. So I'll request Shahid to please come here and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I was not expecting this, but thank you, Nusrat, for inviting me. Because I met Nusrat in Vancouver, I am not from Air Force and do not know most of you. Hopefully, over the course of this brunch, we'll get to know you. Nusrat, a number of his friends talked about having a romantic nature and flirting with authority and everything. Well, that actually streak continued when he was in Vancouver. There were several times when Nusrat got into trouble, and to his credit, he stood his ground. And some of those flirts that he had were with all powerful people. I mean, when he started Miracle, the first thing he did was to start attacking the authority of these few families who used to control the Pakistani community, and used to think that Pakistani community is basically to run the affairs of Pakistani community is their right. His newspaper started challenging that authority, and the new immigrants who were coming there followed his lead and started questioning that how Pakistan-Canada Association is being run and how the others are being run. So his nature of questioning authority, sort of continued. One other thing which I must acknowledge, I mean, in one time he, in his newspaper, printed this article which challenged the way Jewish lobby manages and manipulates the political process. That got into him a lot of trouble. He was on national media, and a lot of actually sponsors who were supporting Miracle pulled out, but he stood his ground. And that takes character to actually stand your ground and say, well, this is what it is and this is how it is. I may disagree with it, but this is a point of view, and everybody in Canada has the right to express their point of view. Coming back here to Pakistan, for me, I do some non-profit work here, and one thing that I appreciate that the support that when I used to be in Canada that I received from Nusrat, and then to date, the kind of things that I do here, they get reflected in the newspapers in Canada is mostly because of the effort that Nusrat actually does. So I really do appreciate all his help. And thank you very much.
I have another friend here who has read the book, but he has not paid me. No, the people who did not pay me, they don't get a signed book. So I'll request Zafar Amin, he's a retired joint secretary, he was my course mate in the ADC, and I'll request him to come here and at least say something good about it. If you couldn't pay 1,000 rupees, please say some good words. Zafar Amin.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, Nusrat. I have brought this book with me just to tell you, if you ask for money, I am going to return it. I have read every page of it. It is not worth 1 rupee. You call me friend. A friend is who doesn't deceive you, who tells the truth. Well, that was, by the way, I have heard all this, the comments by the learned people, and I think the best comment was from Suhail Altaf, who said it appears that you haven't written it. I think this is the best compliment that one could give to Nusrat. It is too good to be written by him. एक आदमी जिसने सारी उम्र सर्विस में हाउ टॉप पायलट्स और ATC समझते हैं हैंडेड ओवर वॉच, टेक ऑन ओवर वॉच, लॉग बुक में इसके अलावा एयर ट्रैफिक कंट्रोल ऑफिसर ने कभी कुछ लिखा ही नहीं, वो इतनी अच्छी किताब लिख दे. वेल डन सर, वी आर ऑल प्राउड ऑफ यू. Another proof of this book having been written by him is that no one else can write all this in a way that it has been written. It is so frank and candid, and the events or the people, those are mentioned in this book, and those with whom I am familiar, or the events that I know of, have been exactly written as they were. और उसमें से बाज़ चीज़ों पे इन्होंने बड़ी खूबसूरती से उसको हकीकत को थोड़ा सा दाएं बाएं भी मरोड़ा है, इसमें भी कोई शक नहीं है. और मैं चूँकि there would be more people also coming in, so A cousin of mine who was with me for a few days, I sort of offered him ke whenever you have time, so he also browsed through this.
But now you pay 2,000.
So, knowing that I was also a squad leader, तो थोड़ा tauntingly or sarcastically he said, तमाम squad leader ऐसे ही होते हैं. मैंने कहा अगर सारे squad leader ऐसे होते तो ये किताब ना होती. So, very few people have the courage and the guts to pen down what they actually have been in their lives. So I am a witness that this book does not contain an iota of mischief that Nusrat has been. He is much more than this. He is much more bold than what he has portrayed himself. He is much more, I must say, witty than what has been described in this. And while I was going through this, I noted down some of the things which I thought if I am given an opportunity, I would like to ask him. Well, what it reveals is that at least thrice he was saved at the brink from the termination. So, saved from the edge, as he says. So page 19 says, saved from the edge, and he has not mentioned of some actual story. Maybe for those who have paid 1,000 rupees, they would actually like to know the real story behind the page 19. Okay, similarly, page 29, he mentions of his IP, but he has not given the name. Maybe you like to tell the name of the IP now, whom he scared hell lot of while putting the aircraft in a spin. And then page 80 mentions of his French leaves, but sir, last is that page 81, second last para, there should be 2 dashes and not 3. Thank you.
Don't forget to pay 1,000 rupees before you leave this hall. Thank you very much, Zafar. Now, I would like to introduce somebody who has been my OC flying in short court. A very brave officer of Pakistan Air Force, very well-respected officer of Pakistan Air Force. The only officer of Pakistan Air Force who shot an Israeli aircraft. And it is Air Commodore Sir Sattar Alavi. It's such an honor to have served under your command, sir. I just want to say a few words which were said by Air Marshal Dilawar. I recently met Air Marshal Dilawar and I presented him my book. And Air Marshal Dilawar said that we were doing a course in USA, and he said that Israeli pilots were also there. And he said they were very rude to other people, but they would respect us, the Pakistani pilots. And Air Marshal Dilawar said, it was because of Sattar Alavi. Sir, thank you very much. You have been honored. And I'll request you, sir, to come here and please say a few words about Air Force, not necessarily about me and the book, but talk about Pakistan Air Force. You are such a...
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a surprise, and fighter pilots don't like surprises. I don't really know what I should be talking about. I know very little of Nusrat. I have not interacted with him during the service to the extent that I could talk as as much as my other friends have. All that I can say is thank you very much for appreciating the effort. And I can say about you that you must, I have not seen the book, I have not read the book, I have no idea about it. And if you say, I'll pay you 1,000 now. But I'm sure with all the things that have been said about the book and about you, it makes you a wonderful person, something I wish I had known earlier in my life and had interacted more with him. I really don't know what else to say. And as far as his appreciation about my task, I just did what I was supposed to do. Whether you fight an Israeli or an Indian or anybody else, you're just supposed to shoot him down. That's all I did. And it was all because of the support that I got from this Air Force. I guess as some friend of mine has said, more another time, I will join the India career. And there is no career better than to fight. Yes, there are others, yes. I'm biased. There is nothing like a fight pilot, and nobody is better than a fight pilot. And he's the best. I'm right or wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
So now you know there is another Jew here.
And sir was ossifying. I didn't get a lot of chance to interact with him. He's right in Chilkot. I was an air traffic controller. Sir, air traffic controllers are the best people, sir. You must. And also, our interaction was more with Sir AVM Abbas Mirza. He was the base commander at the same time. Reason being, Sir Abbas Mirza was also, he's a great cricket player, he's a great professional, a great golfer. I think there are very few officers of the caliber of Sir Abbas Mirza that Pakistan Air Force has produced. Sir, in the end, I'll request you, Sir, Air Vice Marshal Abbas Mirza, it's a great honor for me to ask you to come here and say a few words. Sir Abbas Mirza is in the book. There are stories of his 2 ejections, his F-104 aircraft touching Mach 2 speed. And then Sir Abbas Mirza was also the president of the inquiry board of the crash of General Ziaul. Although he didn't tell me whatever I wanted to know from him. But sir, thank you very much. You have been a great role model for so many of us who are sitting here. Sir Abbas Mirza, please.
Assalamu alaikum. How are we doing today? Are you tired? भूख लगी है ना? मेरी स्पीच तो 1 घंटे की थी, मगर इसने कहा कि भाई 1:15 बजे खाना मिलेगा, तो I have to cut down my speech. नहीं, I'll just take a little bit of time. So first of all, तो पहले कल रमजान साहब आपसे एक मैं I have to take a little bit of disagreement with you. I bought the book first. I bought it on Amazon. So I read it first. Second, आपने जो मैंने अभी पढ़ना था वो आपने पहले कर दिया. So half my speech is already known to all of you. So you have the benefit that I'm going to speak for less than 1 hour and reduce it to about 10 minutes. Does that suit all of you? Okay. So first of all, I want to say that my own experience is of 57 years. I joined the Air Force 57 years ago, and that's a long time. 42 years since 1965 war, 42 years. And 40 years since my first ejection. But all of these events are burned in your memory. You never forget them. And like most of you have said, that Air Force is burned in our heart. It will stay with us till the day we die. What I want to say is that all of us who have been in the Air Force have experienced a lot of action, both good and bad, and it is up to us to write about those for posterity. Unfortunately, I'm one of those who are the weak guys who have a lot to write about, but have not had the courage to do so. And I look upon Nusrat as somebody who has had just 15 years of the PAF, has taken the time to write what he actually feels about his stay in this great service. So I would like to applaud Nusrat for this great action. So my association with Nusrat is basically started in 1985 when I was the base commander, and Nusrat was of course the ADCO. And we interacted, but really I didn't get to know him all that well. And then in 1990, when I was the Air Officer commanding Northern Air Command, Nusrat came to me and he wanted advice on how to leave the service. So I told him, why do you want to leave the service? He says, I want to leave because I want to explore other avenues. So I said, you say that you want to retire because of personal reasons. That's about it. So that is what he did, and he took his release and he left in 1990, right? And of course, then again, I lost touch with Mr. Nusrat. Then one day in Vancouver, in 2014, on 23rd March, there was a function in the Pakistan embassy. And of course, I went there because Pakistan is dear to our heart all the time. And I see young Nusrat, well, not young, but Nusrat, come running to me and giving me a big hug and saying, oh, sir, where have you been? And, I'm so glad to see you. Nusrat had changed a little bit, right? And frankly, I didn't recognize him. But then he brought back the memories of where we had met. And from then on till today, we have been in constant touch. I found out a little bit more about him. He's a great entrepreneur. And I think he's a fighter pilot at heart. He's bold, he's resourceful, and when he sets his mind to do something, he does it. So I'm very proud to be associated with Nusrat. I also learned that he's turned to journalism. He's brought out the newspaper, The Miracle, and The Miracle has now a niche in Surrey, which is a suburb of Vancouver. What I like about the newspaper is that Nusrat has taken pains to project Pakistan in a very positive light. As you well know, Pakistan does not hold a very good reputation in the world. Generally, the news that comes about from Pakistan is adverse. It's about Taliban, it's about bombing, it's about fundamentalism, it's about terrorism. But he has taken upon himself to bring out only the good things that happen in Pakistan. So whether it has made a dent in the general perception of what Pakistan is like, but at least he's gone ahead and made that effort to prove that Pakistan is a very civilized and a very livable and lovable country. So now what I want to do is, I don't want to talk too much about the book. A lot of it has been said. Some of it has, what I wanted to say has already been said. But I think the best indication of what the man is, or what his feelings are when he writes a book, is to read the book. So if you permit me, I'll take a few minutes to read a few passages, not the whole passage, the whole story, but a passage to illustrate the feelings and the way Nusrat has approached life. So if you give me a few minutes, I'd like to do that. The first one is when he was a flight cadet in Risapur, and I think somebody mentioned about this thing. But I want to read that paragraph out where he goes with his instructor, and this instructor has called him a sissy, Muslim. And Mr. Nusrat, known for his boldness, did not take very well to this remark. So the instructor takes him out for a spin, and this is a new instructor. And this is what he writes. I was assigned a new instructor pilot. My new instructor wasn't so kind. He called me a sissy, meaning coward. Insulted by this unkind remark, I decided to check the courage of my instructor. Putting the aircraft into a spin and recovering, I won't go over this. My new instructor thoroughly explained to me the procedure of entering and recovering from a spin. According to the pre-flight briefing, he was to put the aircraft into a spin, and I was to quickly initiate the recovery procedure on hearing the command, "You have the controls." This is to indicate that the instructor pilot is not in charge of the flying. After takeoff, we climbed to 20,000 feet in the training area to enter the spin. At 20,000, he reduced the speed by bringing the throttle back, putting the stick back, slowing the airplane down, bringing the nose of the aircraft up, and he held on to the control stick till the airplane began to buffet. It begins to shake just before the airplane loses control. The stall warning light flashed in the cockpit while I heard this beeping sound in my headset. He then kicked the right rudder with the force of his right leg and moved the control stick to the right and full back. The aircraft rotated and it dipped into a spin. The aircraft rotating to the right started losing altitude rapidly as we held on tightly to our seats. I took over the controls as soon as I heard the command, "You have the controls." So now Mr. Nusrat is in charge of this airplane. Though unhappy with the remark, I replied, "Yes, sir, I have the controls." I did not initiate the spin recovery procedure. Now look at him. The airplane is coming down, and this young man does not want to recover the airplane. I continued spinning by keeping the control stick back in my stomach with both hands and maintaining pressure on the rudder. He again said, "Recover." This time without the word sissy, but I maintained the spin. He shouted, "I have the controls." I ignored his command. He shouted again with panic, "I have the controls." I kept my eyes on the altimeter, carefully watching the fast declining altitude. As we were crossing 15,000 feet, I left the controls and replied, "Yes, sir, you have the controls." We heard each other breathing heavily through our oxygen mask. My instructor immediately recovered out of the spin. He applied oxygen at this, that, the other. Then the instructor turned on the oxygen to 100%, turned the air conditioning ducts towards himself, stretched out his hand, and then with an awkward accent he says, "You are not a sissy, you are an idiot." I'm afraid, Kansab, I have to repeat this episode of his leave, so if you permit me. He's also a lover boy, huh? Lagta nahi hai, magar hai. Nusrat was in Charat as the ATCO, and he was posted there. So, like Abdul Sahib had said, that he wanted to, he was engaged to his wife to be, and he rang her up the day before he was supposed to report to Charat. And this is what happens. Flight Lieutenant Suleiman was Sadko. He was a sweet soul and my immediate boss at Charat. This is for the ladies. Aap log sune gaur se. One weekend I went to my parents' home in Islamabad, which was a few hours drive from Charat. My wife, Shaheen, was my fiancée then. She lived in Karachi with her parents. When I talked to her by telephone from Islamabad, she inquired about my plan of visiting Karachi. I bragged to her that I would reach her the very next day if she told me to do so. She knew that I was supposed to report to Charat the next day, and that it wasn't possible to reach Karachi so soon. I, Nusrat, had always considered her, Shaheen, to be a very rational person, and he was confident that she would not put him to the test. But, to his surprise, she asked Nusrat to visit her the next day. She called his bluff. Being a love-struck young boy and an officer of the Air Force, it became a matter of honoring my words. Yet, I was also certain the Air Force wouldn't consider it a matter of honor if I asked to leave under the pretext of seeing my fiancée. My adventurous mind presented a perfect plan to honor the words of an Air Force officer. So he has this jazba of the Air Force. कि भाई पहले Air Force, बीवी बाद में मगर Air Force पहले. The next year I boarded a Pakistan International Airlines Boeing 747 from Islamabad to Karachi. At the same time, he was supposed to board the bus for Chirag. Because of my experience, I was aware the flight I was boarding would contact my workplace immediately after takeoff. It would remain in contact with Chirag approach for about 10 to 12 minutes. Therefore, as soon as I boarded the airplane, I introduced myself to the air hostess and I asked her to deliver immediately a note to the captain of the aircraft. Dear Captain, this is what he writes. Dear Captain, sir, please ask my senior air traffic control officer at Chirag Approach Control to approve my 10 days of emergency leave. यानी जहाज चल रहा है and ये साहब after writing a note to the captain. I'm on board your aircraft and I'm your air traffic controller at Chirag Approach. Flying officer Nusrat Hussain. A few minutes after takeoff, the air hostess told me the captain wanted to see me in the cockpit. I was expecting his summons because I knew that my boss at Chirag would want to hear from me. So he goes to the cockpit and the captain tells him, jump into the jump seat. He sits down, the captain hands him the headphone and Mr. Nusrat now is on the mic. Chirag Approach Control. This is Flying Officer Nusrat Hussain from Pakistan 301. I heard the sweet voice of the SATCO over the headset. He inquired, yes, Nusrat, what is it? I replied with a humble tone, sir, I have to go to Karachi to attend to an emergency. Please approve me 10 days leave. He's Jammu chal raha hai and he's asking for 10 days leave. There were a few moments of silence on the radio and then came the voice of the SATCO. Okay, Nusrat, but come back after 10 days. Yes, sir, thank you very much. I replied and headed back to my seat after thanking the captain and his first officer in the cockpit. On his return, the SATCO asked him, what was the emergency? What happened? So he says, sir, I'm thankful you approved my leave, but please do not ask me again about the nature of the emergency. I cannot disclose it, it's very personal. So the SATCO says, okay, get lost. One more and then I'll let you guys go. This is about Nusrat wanting to go on ex-Pakistan leave. He's already been on leave the year before, and now he's an ATCO in Chaklada, and he applies for 30 days leave, which is approved. But he has a little bit of a problem with the OC who says you can't go on leave, you just wait. So this is what happens with Mr. Nusrat. So his leave for 30 days has been approved, and now he's talking to the OC. And the OC says, you've been on leave abroad in the previous year also, isn't it? Yes, sir. I have read the Air Force law about ex-Pakistan leave, so he's now also a lawyer. I softly cautioned him. It was not a demerit. The Air Force rule about ex-Pakistan leave stated that an officer of the Air Force could go on leave abroad for 2 successive years, after which a gap of 2 years was mandatory. Not impressed by my knowledge of the Air Force law, the OC tried to advance in a different direction. Why do you want to go again? I honestly replied, because sir, my brothers live abroad and they are paying for my expense for the visit, and it is a golden chance to spend some time with my family. Group Captain Max, with a wise look on his face, inquired, what is the fault of other officers whose brothers cannot afford to pay expenses for their visit abroad? I could hardly believe my ears. I stood startled, my mouth hanging open in disbelief. I responded now, almost crying. Is it my fault, sir, that my brothers can afford to pay my expenses for my visit? I knew that my argument had puzzled him. He thought for a second and spoke with authority. Flight Lieutenant Nusrat, I know your visit has been arranged by your brothers, so I will let you go. But I'm using my discretionary powers to cut short your leave to 21 days. I'm not denying you leave. He warned me, looking straight into my eyes. Denial of leave could have produced me with a convincing opportunity to approach the base commander. But cutting short the leave was within his jurisdiction. Finding me quiet and speechless, the OC announced his victory with a smile on his face. Right, Lieutenant Nusrat, you think you're too damn smart? Well, you are not. My intelligence had been challenged. The boldness of the young man comes forward. I didn't like to see myself as less intelligent than the OC. I gathered up all my senses, looked back with a wicked smile on my face, and said, apparently surrendering, yes, sir, thank you very much. I will only go for 21 days. Now it was the OC's time to be mute and serious. He had been sure that I would not accept this 21 days because going to Paris and London and coming back in 21 days is not worth it. So he tells them, go ahead and file a new application for 21 days, and he goes ahead and files his application for 21 days, which is approved, and he finally departs and he goes to London and Paris. Now this is what happens in Paris. Time passed quickly in Paris. So I realized if I did not board a plane back from Pakistan, home for Pakistan, I would be absent without official leave, AWOL. It was noon time in Paris, which according to the time zone difference meant 5 o'clock in the evening in Pakistan. So he picks up the phone, takes some coins in his pocket, goes to a public telephone booth with his brothers, and he calls the base commander. The base commander is Mir Alam, my postman, great guy. So he calls him up, and Mir Alam picks up the phone. Mir Alam, this is the base commander saying, Mir Alam, I heard a familiar voice. Good evening, sir, or rather it is good afternoon here. I'm Flight Lieutenant Nusrat, calling from Paris. Hello, Nusrat, how are you doing in Paris? Sir, I'm fine, and as you know, I applied for leave for 21 days only. I reminded the base commander of my intent to go abroad for 21 days only. Yes, I wondered, I replied. Sir, because of reasonable, unexplainable explanations on the telephone, I need my leave to be extended for another 15 days. I requested. Do you mean you want another 15 days? Base commander replied, yes, sir. There was a short pause, and then from the distance came the voice of the base commander. No problem, Nusrat. You can have 15 more days, but come back safely. He said graciously. Thank you very much, sir. And Mr. Nusrat then comes back. But this is not the end of it. So now he finishes leave, he comes back to Pakistan, and he's greeted by his SATCO. In the meantime, Nusrat has been transferred to ISA, which the OC doesn't know. So he comes back and he reports to the base, and this is what happens now. I was also in touch from abroad with Squad Leader Azhar, who was the Air Secretary Branch of Air Headquarters, responsible for initiating of posting information. After the extension in the leave, I requested Squad Leader Rana from Paris to mention delaying the reporting date at ISI by a few days after my return to Pakistan. So he's not going to be late for ISI also. So he tells his friend to tell them to delay the posting order. Azhar Rana, generally a noble soul of the Air Force, he graciously accepted the request, and therefore the signal of my posting was issued. At the expiry of my extended leave, I reported to ATC Squadron Chaklala. I was promoted to the rank of Squadron Leader. After all this, he's still promoted to Squadron Leader. And my posting out signal from Chaklala was issued on my return from leave. A day before going out from Chaklala to ISI, the OC ordered SATCO not to release me. So now there is a tussle between the OC and Mr. Nusrat. And he says, no, he's not going to go to ISI, he should stay there. He wasn't prepared to let him go. So now there's, according to him, a ping pong game. I was worried and sensed cancellation of my posting. From the control tower of Chaklala, he calls ISI headquarters and informed them that Coordinator Shahid, who has been told by Coordinator Shahid that he should be held back in Chaklala. So the ISI people say, who has said this? So he takes the name of the OC. He said, he told me not to come. So we say, okay, we shall see what will happen. And within 15 minutes, there's a call from ISI to release Nusrat, and Mr. Nusrat is released and he goes to ISI. So after about 15 minutes, the hotline with Satco buzzed in the control tower. When I picked up the receiver, I heard the bursting laughter of Coordinator Shahid. He said, what have you done? Worried and clueless, I said, what's it? He said, the OC has just called me and said, tell him Nusrat to 4-letter word, starts with an F, off immediately. So this is the best use of 4-letter word in my service career. There are so many more in this book. They are really very interesting, and I won't take any more time. But what I would urge most of us retired people is that we have a lot of experiences with us. We have to take the time and the dedication to pen those eventful things that have occurred in our life. Like Sattar Ali has shot down an airplane. I'm sure other people have had equally interesting episodes. There should be a collection of short stories like he has done. It enhances the image of the service, and it goes down as a part of history. So I would like to thank Nusrat for inviting me as the chief guest. It's been a pleasure to meet all of you here. Like he said, it's whenever one is in the confines or in the environs of an Air Force base, or whenever you hear the name PAF or you hear the name Pakistan, the ears prick up and you want to know what is going on. And I'm very proud to say that the Air Force, mashallah, has progressed from where it was in 1947 to what is here in 2017. It has been a great progression because of the leadership and the dedication that has been given by the officers who have commanded this great service. In the last but not the least, he gave me this free. Thank you.
Before I ask you people,
Sir, me too.
It took you by surprise.
yeah, it's a big surprise. I'm not used to such surprises. But it's okay, no problem. Before, I just forgot one thing more to mention about Sir Abbas. He has been Pakistani ambassador to Burma and Vietnam also. So thank you very much for your time and for everything you said about the book. Thanks a lot. And now, the last thing, before I ask you people to go for the food, मुझे उम्मीद है आप लोग 5-5 किताबें तो ज़रूर खरीदेंगे, लेकिन अगर आप नहीं 5 खरीद सकते तो हस्बे इस्ताताअत आप लोग ज़रूर किताब लेके जाइए, यहाँ मौजूद है. Thank you very much everyone. और भाभी रुखसाना, thank you very much. तमाम भाभियाँ आप लोग आइए, thank you very much. बहुत शुक्रिया आप लोगों का आने का. I'm really honored. Please, let's आप लोग पहले भाभी आप लोग आइए खाने के लिए, please. Thank you very much. थोड़ी सी मिसमैनेजमेंट होगी, 2 मिनट का आपको इंतजार करना पड़ेगा। मुझे ऐसे ही एक शेर याद आ रहा है, मैंने कहा एक सुना दूँ। मेरे उस्ताद होते थे, उस्ताद सईद कैस बहरीन में, जिनसे थोड़ी सी मैं शायरी वायरी भी करता हूँ, उनसे सीखी थी। और ये उसी उस्ताद का शेर है, उस्ताद सईद कैस का, कि रोशनी मुझको बुलाने मेरे घर तक आई, रोशनी मुझको बुलाने मेरे घर तक आई, उसने दीवार पे मिट्टी का दिया क्या रखा। ऐसे ही एक शेर याद आ गया था और मैंने आपकी नज़र कर रहा हूँ। और खालिद इकबाल इज हियर, खालिद प्लीज कम हियर, आप तशरीफ लाएं। खालिद इकबाल मेरा क्लास फेलो है। मैं सर थोड़ा फॉर द टाइम जितना कंज्यूम हो रहा है, आई वुड लाइक टू इंट्रोड्यूस यू। खालिद इकबाल मलिक हैज बीन माई क्लास फेलो स्कूल से, और he has been chairman of the president of the Chamber of Commerce Islamabad, a very good businessman, बहुत बड़ा अच्छा बिजनेसमैन है। लेकिन स्कूल के ज़माने में क्लास में ये वो शख्स है जो किताबें बेच के फिल्में देखा करता था।
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। नुसरत बहुत सारी बातें हैं, मैं बताना नहीं चाह रहा यहाँ पे, किताबों की बातें तो मैंने बता दी। बहरहाल जी, मैं बिज़नेस करता हूँ जी, और थोड़ा सा सियासी हूँ। फोर्सेस से तल्लुक़ कुछ इस तरह है कि माई फादर वॉज इन द आर्मी, अ मोस्ट सीनियर मैन, जिनका नंबर 386, my elder brother was also in the army. I had 3 brother-in-laws. 2 आर्मी में हैं और 1 एयर फोर्स में। एक ग्रुप कैप्टन थे जमल भाई, शायद चंबड़ किसी को जानते भी होंगे उनको। बहरहाल नुसरत के साथ में मैट्रिक तक था। नुसरत एक नहायत शरारती, खुद शरारत करता था और मुझे फंसा देता था। और कई दफ़ा ऐसा हुआ कि इसकी शरारत पे मुझे बड़ी मार पड़ी। और नुसरत मुझे याद है, सर महमूद ने कितना मारा था मुझे। 12 नुसरत आप कनाडा में हैं, मैं समझता हूँ कि आप मुल्क के, पाकिस्तान के एम्बेसडर हैं वहाँ पे। हकीकत ये है कि आज हमारा मुल्क जहाँ खड़ा है और जो हालात हैं इस वक्त, मैं समझता हूँ हकीकतन अफसोस का मुकाम है। बिजनेसमैन होने के नाते मैं इतना कहूँगा कि अब दुनिया में न्यूक्लियर वॉर का टाइम नहीं है, इट्स इकोनॉमिक वॉर है। और पाकिस्तान दिन ब दिन नीचे जा रहा है। वो मुल्क जो हमसे बहुत पीछे थे और जिन्होंने पाकिस्तान से बहुत कुछ सीखा, आज वो हमसे बहुत आगे चले गए। बहुत अफसोस का मुकाम है। हमें सबको दुआ करनी चाहिए, अल्लाह ताला हमारे मुल्क को एक ऐसे रहनुमा लीडर अता करे कि इस मुल्क जिसमें बहुत पोटेंशियल है, बहुत पोटेंशियल है, वो वापस अपने कदमों में खड़ा हो। क्योंकि मेरा ताल्लुक बिजनेस से है, अगर मैं ज़्यादा बातें करूँगा तो बहुत डिप्रेसिंग हो जाएंगी। पाकिस्तान एक एग्रीकल्चर कंट्री थी, उसके साथ साथ हमारी टेक्सटाइल इंडस्ट्री जो बहुत अरूज में थी, आज उसका दिवालिया निकल गया। और इकानमी की क्या सूरत हाल है वो आपके सामने है। हम बांग्लादेश, क्या सिर्फ वियतनाम, अगर वियतनाम का मैप और नक्शा देखें अजीब किस्म का वो मुल्क बनता है जो हमसे बहुत पीछे था, आज वो हमसे कहाँ आगे है। हम लोग इस वक्त $19 बिलियन के एक्सपोर्ट पे खड़े हैं और वियतनाम जैसा मुल्क 200 बिलियन क्रॉस कर गया। बांग्लादेश जो हमसे कहीं पीछे था, आज वो हमसे कहीं आगे है। बहरहाल क्योंकि मैं फोर्सेस से तलब मेरा नहीं है और ये गैदरिंग आज माशाल्लाह हमारे फोर्सेस के सारे एयरफोर्स के लिए हैं, आर्मी के लिए हैं। हमें सबको दुआ करनी चाहिए अपने मुल्क के लिए और सबको इंडिविजुअली हर एक को इसमें कंट्रीब्यूट करना चाहिए ताकि पाकिस्तान तरक्की पे गामजन हो और यहाँ के लोग खुशहाल हों। हकीकत ये है नुसरत इस वक्त more than 50% of our population is below the poverty line. It is really very pity. Anyhow, बहुत शुक्रिया नुसरत। और आपकी किताब तो मैंने पढ़ी नहीं और अगर मैं पढ़ूँगा मुझे समझ नहीं आएगी क्योंकि एयरफोर्स के बारे में है वो, लेकिन इतना मुझे पता है कि स्कूल में शरारती थे और एयरफोर्स में भी शरारती हूँ। थैंक यू जी, बहुत शुक्रिया।
बस खाना भी तैयार होने वाला है। Is it ready? अभी आप लोग प्लीज आ जाए। उसके बाद ये किताब भी फॉर सेल अवेलेबल है। कन्वेंस करल इंसानी विल बी टेकिंग केयर ऑफ। अगर आप लोग चाहें तो किताब को प्लीज खरीदें, लेकिन प्लीज
क्या बाहर देखें
जेंटलमैन प्लीज, ये नुसरत नहीं बुलाएगा, नुसरत खाली किताबों के बेचने के लिए बुला रहा है।
I will एयरफोर्स से भी रिटायर वो प्री मैच्योर इधर मैच्योर होके वेरी काइंड सारे डिफरेंट हेडिंग्स हैं वो प्री मैच्योर रिटायरमेंट ये फुल रिटायरमेंट री रिटायरमेंट बंदा लेना चाहिए शक होने पे ये इज डबल रेटिंग अनलेस के होने अगर कोई मीडिया वगैरह और दूसरा यह है कि चलो गांधी बात हो जाए भारत करेंसी
थैंक यू चलो सर ओके थैंक यू वेरी मच
जैसे मैंने बताया मेरे अपने पास मैं नहीं लेता था, करीबन नहीं वो ठीक है, कैसे बात करते हैं मुझे वो निकल गया। आपको जो है ना वो करते हैं कि आपको से फोन करते हैं, ये मेरी बात से बात है। अच्छा कैसे करें ना
मैंने रोका है, जा रहा था।
On the board, doctor.